Welcome to season 2, episode 6 of the Georgian Surrogacy podcast. I'm Liz Tripodi and I'm flying solo today. And I'm going to be answering some questions that I've had from people all over the world. And I just want to say, on behalf of Anita and myself, thank you so much for the support of our little podcast. We are now in, I think it's 37 countries we are being heard in, which is absolutely mind blowing. I can't believe it. What started off as just a little project for us to talk about our journeys has now developed into a little community of which we're both really proud of. And it's been a little while since our last episode. Life busy with helping people on their journey, and things are good. I'm so proud to be helping so many clients from around the world with their surrogacy journeys and discovering about Georgia and why it is the place to go to create a family and to make your dreams come true. So today's episode is all going to be about questions that I've been receiving over the last few weeks from people in our community that would like to know more. They may have already started their journey. They might be already in the middle of their journey, or they might be thinking about doing it. So I'm going to answer those questions as best as I possibly can. And of course, you can always contact me privately via email, liz@chichava.ge, or you can find me on social media and send me a message that way. So, first question I'm going to answer today, the question is, it's about cultural norms, expectations, communication styles, and what to expect at medical consults, how much to contact and chase up the agencies, communication with the surrogates if they don't speak English, things like that. So let me answer all that. So Georgia, number one, is a very family-friendly country. They pride themselves on being a family-friendly country. And everyone is very warm and friendly once you get to know them. But the Georgian way can be a little bit brisk if you're from one of the Western countries and you might not be used to it. You might think sometimes it might come across as rude or abrupt. It is so not like that at all. Everyone, all the medical professionals and especially, the place that I'm a part of, Chichava, everyone is so caring and so friendly and genuinely care about everyone on an individual basis. Cultural norms. So, something probably really important to mention is that men are not allowed in the birth by Georgian law. So, if you women are, of course, with permission from your surrogate, that they're okay with that. So, men stay in a room next door to the birthing suite. And then once the baby is born and the checks are done, the baby's then brought into the room that yourself, the female and the husband or your partner are going to be in to welcome your baby into the world and start your life together as a family. Expectations and communication styles. Georgian communication is not as quick as, for example, of what people may expect in Australia or the UK or the States or Canada. It's not like if you get a message or an email, you're going to get a response in 2 minutes outside of working hours. It's just, you've got to remember that it's a business, it's a hospital. You can't expect an instant reply. Um, I know that myself. I know that I'm really quick with communication, but I'm also um, online for the majority of the day via different forms of social media. So I would say number one, you need to be patient and you need to be kind. The doctors and the coordinators and all the teams, they're doing such an amazing job, and they literally are working around the clock. The doctors will send emails at midnight. The doctors will reply to people at 3 in the morning. I've seen this firsthand. So my thing is please be kind and please be patient, because everyone really is going over and beyond, um, you know, what they're doing. In terms of medical consults, depending on if you're going there for treatment or if you're, obviously in another country while your surrogate is going through treatment, medical consults. So there's, I mean, again, I'm using Chichava as an example, but the surrogate will go into her appointment. Generally, the wait time is pretty quick. Maybe 10, 15 minutes, depending on, how busy they are that day. They'll go in, have their ultrasound. The doctor's there. They talk in Georgian to each other because obviously that's the language that they speak to. But if you've been fortunate enough to be on a video call during a live ultrasound or scan, they will then speak to you in English while that's happening. And they measure things and they look at stuff on the screen. They take down the report. They're making notes, they're taking footage, and everything gets filed and obviously then emailed across to the intended parents, whether it's videos, an updated report, anything that they might find that they need to let you know. And of course, every scan or ultrasound can present different things. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional, but only going from what my experience is what I can tell you. How much to contact and chase up the agencies? Well, it depends if you're starting, your journey from the start, or if you're already there. As I said, just be patient. I do think, though, when you're making an initial inquiry, if you haven't had a response back in 24 to 48 hours, I think that's pretty poor form. I don't think there's any excuse for really bad communication. Um, and again, yes, it is Eastern Europe and things are a little bit different. But one of the things that I love about Chichava, which is very different from a lot of the other clinics or agencies out there, is that all of the team are very long-standing team members. They've all been there for years. I'm like the most recent one. So somewhere where it doesn't have a high turnover of staff, to me, says that that's a really good working environment and that's a place to be trusted. Communication with surrogates, and if they don't speak English, um, we have translators, and you'll find that most agencies should have translators. And bring them onto a video call, and you can ask questions, and the translator will translate, and things like that. Meeting up with a surrogate pre-birth, absolutely, it can be done. Again, if the surrogate is feels comfortable with that. I was fortunate on my journey to be able to go into a couple of ultrasound scans with our surrogate because we got there earlier, and that was, my goodness, such an amazing experience, and so very surreal, to be honest. So yeah, that absolutely can be arranged through your coordinator, and if you get the opportunity to be able to do that before the birth, I would highly recommend it because it's really, really special. On to the next lot of questions. It's about egg retrieval. Would I start in your home country or do full stims over in Georgia? Just a basic rundown. Look, I personally, knowing about the results that Dr. Ketty gets at Chichava, would probably always recommend to probably start it there. Dr. Ketty gets amazing results from people, even ones that have people that have only this is their first time going through IVF or um, going through any type of fertility treatment. I've seen the results that she gets, and oh my goodness, this woman, I'll shout it to the rooftops, is a magician. So yeah, I would always, and you stay in Georgia for anywhere from say 16 to 20 days to do that. So I'd always suggest doing it there because they can tweak your protocol, and everyone's protocol is different. And I think that's what makes Dr. Ketty such a renowned fertility specialist, is the fact that everything is tailored individually. Um, but you can certainly start it in your home country, and we have many people that start treatment wherever they are, and the protocol is given to them to start. They may also do a one scan before they arrive in Georgia, and then Dr. Ketty times it with what date they're going to arrive, and then she'll take over the treatment from there. Um, it's yeah, either option is fine, depending on, of course, how long you can get away and what your previous test results are. Obviously there's tests that you need to do beforehand, so that we can see everything medically is okay. um, Next lot of questions is about embryo shipping complexities. Yes, it can be very challenging to ship embryos, and I've got quite a few questions about embryo shipping. Number one, there are lots of different companies around the world that ship embryos from wherever they are to Georgia. I'll give a shout out to Pam Matthews, who is the lady that we recommend the most in Australia. Pam hand carries embryos and semen to Georgia about every 6 to 8 weeks. Never had a shipment go wrong. She's absolutely amazing. She was an embryologist for nearly 30 years, so very, very experienced. Whichever company that you choose, I would make sure that they're reputable, that they're experienced. There is some countries that won't allow you to ship embryos directly out of your home country into Georgia. They need to go via somewhere else. So, of course, there is more paperwork that needs to be done. I'm not going to get too much into different countries' laws because, of course, we could be here all day and there's just too much to talk about. But you can feel free to reach out to me if you are looking to go with Chichava and you want to know more about shipping embryos out. In general, it's a fairly easy process, just a few pieces of paperwork. And we also liaise with the clinic that they are leaving from. We have to supply our clinic license. We have to supply a letter saying that we're going to accept the materials. So there is a little bit involved, but by any stretch of the imagination, it's not difficult for the most part. And in terms of just shipping sperm, again, it's actually an easier process just to ship sperm than it is to ship embryos. I've got a question regarding clinics in Sydney. Well, most of them, or all of them, will. You won't have an issue, but feel free to get in touch with me if you need to find out how that all works. Another question I've got is how to choose between local and travelling surrogates and the pros and the cons. So I just want to explain what the difference is. So a local surrogate is a Georgian who lives in Georgia. Now, they can live anywhere from, 10 minutes to a couple of hours away from the clinic. Georgian surrogates are that. They're Georgian citizens. Pros and cons. Well, pros look, our surrogate was Georgian. She was wonderful. Con, look, yes, there's a really good list of pros, but there's also a list of cons as well. And one of the biggest cons I would say is that living too far away from the clinic can pose an issue. Making sure they get to their appointments on time, making sure there's no issue with transport. making sure there's no issue with their jobs, um, making sure their focus is on, a safe and healthy pregnancy at all times. Um, and, sometimes in the case if a surrogate is married, there is extra paperwork, which does make it harder, especially like countries like the UK, where the surrogate, I think, has to be single. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what the law is in the UK. Traveling surrogates, and the word traveling is such a silly word because they actually don't travel around. They live in Georgia for the entire duration of treatment and right through to a little bit past birth. Um, our surrogates live only 10 minutes away from Chichava. We have a team, an entire team that just look after our traveling surrogates. At the moment, our traveling surrogates come from Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, the Philippines, and a couple of other countries. And they don't work, so their whole focus is maintaining a safe and healthy lifestyle. They generally have good support because often they may know someone from their home country or things like that. They make friends very, very quickly, and they are seen to and in contact with the surrogacy team a lot more because they are living away from home. So we always like to check in, make sure they're doing okay. And one of the pros as well is I find with the traveling surrogates, they never miss an appointment. They always, look after themselves really, really well. Um, because their focus is on, as I said, a safe and healthy pregnancy. So, in my personal opinion, I these days would absolutely pick a traveling surrogate if I had to do this process again. Not that I will, but never say never, I guess. Excuse me while I have a drink of water. Um, so yeah, I'd absolutely pick a traveling surrogate with no hesitation at all. Look, you will find that the Georgian surrogates, majority of them will speak a little bit of English. Traveling surrogates generally don't. The ones from the Philippines do. But you know what? Whoever you go with, it has to feel right for you. So, look out for things like if they've had a C-section in the past, how many births, when the last birth was, um, you know, height to weight ratio, what the medical team, what their recommendation is, if they think it's going to be a good fit for your embryos. So there's a lot of factors in play. So only you and your team can make that decision. The next question I want to talk about is, and I'm just scrolling here. Um, um, Sorry, I'm just having a look. I think I've talked about the scans, so that's all good. Um, Generally, your coordinator is your first point of call for everything, and then of course, you have direct access to your to the treating doctor for the surrogate. So you will find that you'll be kept very much in the loop through every scan, ultrasound, or if anything else pops up. Um, in our case, our surrogate was hospitalised twice during the process. We were told, within the same day, and kept up to date every day on how her condition was and how she was travelling and things like that. And next questions that I've got is about uh, baby formula. Would you believe? And everything about it. And let's talk breastfeeding as well, because I know that's another topic that people are very, very interested about. So let me start with baby formula first. So, baby formula in Georgia, there are a few different brands, and you're going to find that the equivalent brand is going to be available in your home country. So, we're talking about brands like S26. Nan, which is made by Nestle, Aptamil Gold, and then there's a brand called Hip, but that's not available. I've never seen it outside Georgia. So you'll find that the hospital will use. There's another brand as well. I can't remember what it was called, but I remember the twins. It didn't agree with them, so we changed very quickly. Um, Let me think. So baby formula is very readily available from all the chemists and the supermarkets. We ended up having to try like a couple of different brands because the twins were, one of them ended up with, reflux, colic. Then they weren't drinking much. So then we tried a different formula, things like that. So we ended up, I think, towards the end of, say, I don't know, maybe it was around week 6 or something, they were on Nan. And then we continued with Nan when we got to Australia. And then I think we swapped to Aptamil because I can't even remember the reasons why. Anyway, it was all good in the end. But I would certainly be going with a brand that you know that you can get in your home country. And the products aren't made in Georgia. From memory, when we were there, I think the Nan was made in Poland, and maybe the Aptamil was made in maybe Germany. I want to say, but it's all the equivalent. And like we had one of those baby Brezza formula making machines, and you can actually input what brand of formula you have and the dosage and all that, and it makes the formula for you as per the specifications. So it was fantastic, and I would probably the best purchase I think we ever did as twin parents was buying a baby Brezza machines. Um, and in terms of bottles, again, don't go buying a heap of bottles like what we did and bring them to Georgia, because our twins ended up on a completely different brand. Not every child is going to like the brand of bottles that you may bring or you might see in a shop and want to buy, because either they're on special or it comes as a starter kit or whatever the reason is. Because we ended up buying, I think, probably 5 different brands of bottles, and then ended up on a brand that isn't even sold in Australia, so that when excuse me, so we ended up with a brand called Suavinex, which is actually a Spanish brand, which was recommended to us by the pediatrician in Georgia, because the teat on the bottle resembles a nipple. Um, and this is really weird to be talking about this, I've got to be honest. I didn't think I'd be, talking about this in any aspect in my life. It's quite funny. Especially recalling it too. Anyway, so then when we got back to Australia, I had to get my friend Jerry to while he was still in Georgia, to buy a couple of extra bottles to bring back for me. And then I think a few months later that we had to go over to the one where they get to 6 months, and I ended up having to buy them online from a online store in Europe. And I think it cost me $100 Australian dollars to buy 2 bottles, because they were expensive by Australian standards, where, here you can buy Tommy TP set for $30, or, whatever, whatever it is. So my suggestion, don't buy any bottles. Wait till you get there. See what the hospital recommends if you're bottle feeding. See what they take to. Don't be scared to change different brands. Just buy one bottle at a time. Don't go buying sets or multiples, because you might end up donating them or throwing them away or whatever. And that's just, a waste of money and not great for landfill either. So just be mindful of that. In terms of breastfeeding, for anyone who may be interested in breastfeeding themselves, you can go and see a lactation specialist in your country, and they can talk to you about that. So I didn't breastfeed. For those that have met me before, my breasts are big enough, and there is no chance that I was ever going to be breastfeeding twins. It was always going to be bottle feeding. So, yeah, you can go see a lactation specialist. The other thing that you can do is you can actually, there are places in Georgia you can actually buy breast milk, Or you can also ask your surrogate in advance if she would be interested in expressing for a few weeks after the birth, and you can pay her, a fee separately to your surrogacy agreement for her to supply milk. So there are some options. So you can speak to your coordinator, and any coordinator that says to you no, or they don't know, or whatever, then that's not cool, because this is important, and being able to have those choices, I believe, is really important as well, as a future parent. Uh, in terms of things to bring with you and things to buy in Tbilisi, I've got a list of things that we brought over. I think it was a pretty good list. It was important. Like, we brought a microwave sterilizer, plenty of, things like burp cloths. Don't bring any nappies, because you can buy them all there. And again, you don't know what size your baby's going to be. Onesies and jumpsuits with zips. Do not get ones with press studs, because you will be forever cursing that you've got to do up buttons. Just get things, as a jumpsuit. What else did we bring? If there's any we brought things like, it was really good too with the European brands, things like organic baby wash and all that sort of stuff. Like, we brought that all in Georgia. There were some amazing organic brands that, every time I end up back in Georgia, I end up stocking up on that sort of stuff, because you just can't get it in a lot of the Western countries, because you can't even get it shipped out. What else did we bring? We ended up bringing our own bassinets, because we had twins. They were portable ones that came in carry bags, so they were so easy to check in with our luggage and things like that. Um, Over there, we brought a baby carrier for the car, and we ended up just leaving it there. We donated it um, to a charity when we left. Um, I have got a list. If anyone wants it, you feel free to message me, and I'm happy to share it. It stood me in pretty good stead. In terms of, buying stuff there, we brought clothes, we brought nappies, we brought, the twins were so preemie that, even the socks didn't fit them that we'd brought. It was just, I remember Annalise, things were just falling off her. There was, I think five XS was the smallest size we could buy, and she was even too small for that. So you just got to make do with what you've got. Um, um, as an Australian, we missed cordial, um, it, and we were there for 5 months on our big long stay. Cordial was something that we really, really missed. You can't buy cordial in Georgia. Uh, we brought over, Tim Tams and, our favourite, shampoos and conditioners and things like that. If your beauty and your skincare, you can get all that stuff in Georgia. But if there is certain things that you use on a daily basis and you're not sure if you're going to be able to get them or not, then, bring that sort of stuff across with you. There's some great baby stores in Tbilisi. You've got the major supermarkets. There's a massive Carrefour at Tbilisi Mall, which is like a cross between, say, um, Walmart, Kmart, Costco, things like, it's got everything. We bought a baby bath there. So yeah, just pack, we had one suitcase just for the twins, a massive, 81 centimeter spinner, and that had everything in there, that we needed, wraps and anything else you can buy. And, don't stress yourself out too much about what to bring and what not to bring, because you can always find it. Georgia is not a third world country. You will find what you need. Um, what else? Practical tips to make travel home easier: feeding, sleeping, waiting at airports, luggage. Um, List of extra baby friendly airlines. Well, it's all going to depend on where you're coming from, because of course not every airline around the world will fly to your destination. I've flown internationally probably 100 times, maybe even more. Yeah, probably about 100 times. Nah, actually, it's more than that with all the internal flights over the years, and I've flown a lot of different airlines. In terms of family friendly airlines, I would say that, and now again, just my personal experience, um, Emirates, Qatar, Turkish, Singapore. Um, who else am I thinking of that's family friendly? Lufthansa, depends on the crew. Austrian are very good. It just, again, it depends on which hub you're flying in and out of. Um, how to make travel home easier? Well, it depends if you're going home for a 3 or 4 hour flight, or if you're flying 9 hours, or if you're flying back to Australia, which is going to take you sometimes over 24. Um, I would always suggest that if you've got a stopover, if you can do a stopover at one of the airports, then do it. So whether that's flying from Tbilisi to Doha, or Tbilisi to Dubai, or Tbilisi to Istanbul, or wherever you're going, if you're on a long haul flight, break it up. Stay in an airport hotel if you can, which is what we did on the way home. We stopped, I think, for 17 hours. It was fantastic. We got to have a shower. We got to have a sleep. The twins were still feeding then every 2 to 3 hours. And mind you, they were 11 weeks old, I think, at that stage. And we've actually flown since then with the twins internationally 4 times. They've been to Europe now since they were born. I must say it is so much harder. Like 2 years ago, when we went to Europe as a family, they were just crazy on the plane. And we were fortunate enough to be in business, but they were still crazy. I would always suggest taking night flights, especially if you've got toddlers. So try and time a flight that leaves, like the one that's the really long leg, time it that it's leaving at midnight or whatever, so that, the child can go straight to sleep. With babies, it doesn't matter what time of day you fly, they're going to sleep and then wake and things like that. Do pre-book a bassinet seat on whichever airline that you're flying. So because holding a baby for a really long time is agony, and it really hurts your back and your arms. The other thing that's really helpful is if you buy some sterilizing tablets or sterilizing bags, so you can sterilize the bottles while you're in transit or things like that. And then all you've got to do is ask for hot water, and then you can just add the formula to that. A really helpful thing that I had was like this formula container that would look like a rainbow, and it had like 5 different compartments. So I used to fill every compartment with the amount of ratio of formula I needed, and then just add that one compartment to the bottle with the water. So that was really good. And then of course you can just sterilize your bottles uh, in between. Um, and in terms of luggage, you'll find that the airlines are pretty good. Um, if you need to pay for extra before you get to the airport. And then on the way home, you'll get an extra allowance depending on who you're flying with. Again, always check your baggage limits. Um, and Oh, that was the other thing. We did buy a pram. Did we buy a pram in Georgia? No, we brought our double pram with us to Georgia. It was pretty compact and it folded. The only problem was when we got to Doha Airport, they wouldn't let us take us off the plane, even though it was gate checked. So you've got to be mindful of these things, that sometimes, the airlines won't allow it. And even if you ask them beforehand, you'll get to the airport and they'll be like, no, you can have it up until the plane, but then you're not going to get it again until you land in Australia. Anyway, it is what it is. Um, how to find the best places to stay in Tbilisi with a baby. Um, yes, and you can also rent and buy baby supplies, which I think I've already mentioned about. There are chemists everywhere. Supermarkets are plenty. There is a rental place called Tibli Easy, if you look it up on Google, and it's the only one I know of that rents baby stuff. But to be honest, you're cheaper off to buy it brand new than rent it. Um, And you'll find that a lot of Airbnbs these days and a lot of apartments, if you message the owner, if it hasn't already got written in the listing, a lot of them these days come with cots, or you can request a cot and things like that. So do that, because as I said, Georgia now is such a family friendly country that a lot of the Airbnbs are supplying these things quite easily, which makes it great. Areas in terms of where to stay. Again, this is a personal preference. I've stayed in four or five different areas now in all the times that I've been to Tbilisi. Um, so Rusta Valley is the area right in the heart of the city. You may have seen it on TV. It's where Parliament is. It's where you might see protests. It's where there's a big train station. It's where Liberty Square is with the big roundabout, and that is literally the heart of the city. Um, I love that area. I've stayed in that area a couple of times. Um, and I stayed there for a few days when I was there a few months ago. Um, yeah, it's very flat, easy to walk around. Everything's at your doorstep. Um, my other favourite area is called Mutsminda, which is just up the road from Rusta Valley. You got beautiful mountain views. It is quite hilly though, at different parts. Um, then you've got Vera, which is where Chichava is. Vera is really nice. You've got like the river running through it, not very far away. It's got now a lot of really brand new hotels that have just opened up in like the last year, in the last few months. Um, it's pretty flat to walk around, which is good. Then you've got Vake, or Vake, as some people call it, which is what is also known as the posh area of Georgia. The traffic is horrendous. Um, you could be looking at half an hour in traffic if traffic is bad on a bad day. It's a fantastic area though. You've got lots of cafes, restaurants, brand new apartment buildings. You've got the lake, playgrounds, walking tracks, things like that. And it's a lot more expensive than other suburbs of Tbilisi. Um, but I wouldn't stay there. Now I just find the traffic is not great, but I like visiting it. The air quality is really good. On my next day, actually, we're on the border of Vake and another suburb. Vera, on the border of Vera and Vake. So, again, personal preference, and it depends on what you like. Then you've got areas like Dagomi, Avlabadi, um, and Old Tbilisi, of course. I'd always just look at the maps, get onto Google Street View, um, have a look at the streets surrounding it. Um, what other advice can I give you? Try and pick somewhere that's got a lift. You don't want stairs. Having stairs when you're doing groceries, or when you're doing carrying a baby up and down the stairs, or if you've got a toddler with you, stairs are not great. You'll be exhausted, especially if your baby is due during summer and it's hot. Security entrance is always great. Um, Georgia's got so many of those apartments now. You will find something within your budget. If you're going to stay there for a really long time, then I wouldn't recommend Airbnb. I'd look at like myhome.ge or something like that, which is one of our stays. We negotiated a much longer stay going through there. The only thing is you will need a local to speak for you, because they only speak Georgian or Russian, so you could always ask your coordinator to help you. But certainly Airbnb, and again, you can negotiate rates with them. You don't have to accept what the rate is. You can message them and say, "Hey, I'm going to be staying for this long," or whatever it is, and go from there. So, um, yeah, so that's what I would do in terms of um, accommodation. I've stayed in everything from hotels through to to private apartments and Airbnbs. Uh, One great thing about Tbilisi apartments, as I've found, is they're really generous in space size, especially the bedrooms. And if you value fresh air and walking space and stuff, try and get one that's in a sort of a flat sort of area, because again, you're going to get really tired. You won't realize how tired you are until your baby comes. And you want at least a couple of stores to be walkable, and I mean walkable within a couple of minutes. So whether that's a chemist, whether it's a cafe, whether it's a little takeaway place, whether it's a little market that might just sell some fruit and veg. Yes, you can get anything delivered to your door in Georgia within 15, 20 minutes via Glovo or Wolt, and that is absolutely brilliant. But sometimes you just want to pop out and just grab something yourself. So I always like to stay somewhere where there are some sort of facilities or little shops as close by as possible, so that if I need something, I can get it straight away. Um, I might leave it there with the Q&As for today, and I'll do another Q&A very, very soon, because I've got lots more questions to get through. But I hope that as a start, that was helpful to some of you, and that answers some of the questions that you may be thinking, or maybe it's questions that you weren't thinking. So I want to thank you all for joining me and for listening. And I will be back. I promise it won't be months. It'll be just another week with another episode of the Georgian Surrogacy Podcast. Thanks so much.